Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next wonderful activity for this 2020 Giving Tuesday. I am Valerie Cordero, Co-Executive Director of Families for Depression Awareness, and we have been so fortunate to have a day full of amazing activities focused on family caregiver self-care. Family members of people who are dealing with depression or bipolar disorder often feel overwhelmed, stressed, and can even develop depression themselves. So it's so important that they not only receive support from their friends and their wider networks and from the mental health care system, but that they also do a lot to take care of themselves. And self-care is a lot of things. It can be taking time for yourself during the day. It can be building up that support network to make sure that you have people to fill in for you if you need extra help. And it can be things as important also as having your own therapist. We've had wonderful activities around crafting, around exercise and body movement. We had some wonderful tips about caregiver self-care in many moments during the day. And now we are going into our fourth session of the day on engaging your senses and mindfulness. So I want to welcome to the stream my fellow Families for Depression Awareness employee. We work together, and she is a wonderful, wonderful programs manager and a really great resource, Ariel Cohen. Thanks for being with us, Ariel. Ari, as we call you.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, Val, for that warm introduction. I appreciate it, and I'm grateful to be here today.
Well, we're grateful to have you. So what we're going to do for this hour is, it might not take the whole hour, but we are going to talk about engaging your five senses and mindfulness. And then we're going to have a wonderful presentation from Susie Fairchild. Susie Fairchild is a psychotherapist and a meditation facilitator who has her own private practice, and she also works for the Cambridge Health Alliance and their Center for Mindfulness and Compassion. So again, we're going to go through a bit of mindfulness and using your five senses, and then we're going to hear a wonderful presentation from Susie. We want to remind everyone that we are trying to screen 1,000 people using our caregiver stress test. So please go to our website, familyware.org/stress-test. to take your free assessment and get resources and tools to help you manage your stress. We are also trying to raise money to support our programs and our organization. Our goal is to raise $5,000. The first $2,500 that we raise will be matched. And so we're kind of slowing down at $850. We want to at least get to the $1,000 mark. So help us get there, and then we will raise money even beyond that. So with all that having been said, I'm going to give the floor to Ari to walk us through information about engaging your five senses.
Thank you, Val. And hello again, everyone. We appreciate you tuning in, whether you're watching live or you're going to watch as this is recorded. When we think about engaging our five senses, we're really talking about mindfulness. So I'm going to spend a moment just going over mindfulness so that we all have a basic understanding, and then we'll hear from Susie. So mindfulness is a activity that we do on purpose. It's something where we're paying attention to the thoughts that we're having, the physical sensations in our body, the emotions that come with it. And we do this without judgment of ourselves. And the last step that a lot of people forget is that we then give ourselves self-compassion, which Susie's going to talk a whole lot about in a moment. Mindfulness is an activity that we have to do because our brains are a muscle. And when our brains always go to this negative place, it's the first place we go when we're feeling stressed. So when we, on purpose, start to pay attention to all the thoughts we have, not just negative ones, the positive and even neutral thoughts, it helps us realize that we can actually pay more attention to what's going on and pick where our energy goes when possible. And we can practice mindfulness through a number of ways. We do this through the more traditional, meditation, where we see on the screen someone sitting in a nice pose, doing yoga, potentially. We also do this through Tai Chi and other body-centered approaches. But there's also ways to engage our five senses through mindfulness activities that can support our wellness and are quick and easy to do. So, when we think about engaging our five senses through mindfulness, this is a really simple activity that you can do anywhere you are in the moment, and it's easy to pull out of your pocket. So all we have to do here is think of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and remember our five senses, which can sometimes be more difficult than we want it to be. But we try to start with five things that we see, because that can be the easiest place. And it's also very grounding. Sometimes when our thoughts are distracting us, we sort of forget where we are. And once we ground and notice where we are in the room, it can really bring us back and get out of these negative thoughts. It's also really hard to think of negative thoughts when you're on purpose thinking about other things, very objective things. So when I look around the room, five things I see are this screen, I see my cell phone, I see a pen, my water bottle, I didn't count, so I'll name one more, and I see a picture of my partner in front of me. And then I can go to the next thing. What's four things that I can feel or touch? And you go down the list from there. When you think about how to order them, I try to put it in what's the easiest for me to answer, and smell and taste tend to be a little more difficult. So if you can only think of one thing for those, that's totally fine. But by the time you get down to two things you can smell and one thing you can taste, usually we're feeling more grounded by that part of the activity. So, another way we can do the five senses is through a visual activity. So, maybe it's a little difficult in the moment, or we're really struggling with finding a taste that really distracts us from that. So, we can think of a place where we felt at peace. This could be maybe a summer camp you went to as a child, or a holiday that you love, or a moment in time. It could be a physical place or an experience that you had, celebrating a graduation or something that was important to you and your family. And we can go through this visualization, either asking ourselves these questions and just sitting and thinking through them, or we can write these down in a journal and really think through all these elements. But again, this practice helps us slow down and really tune in. What I love about visualizing a place where I feel at peace is that I can bring out this memory more often during my tough days, especially with COVID, where it's hard and I can't go to this dreamy place as much as I would love to. I can remember it and think about it and make it come to life through my five senses. And then once I recognize what I miss about that place, I can try to emulate or make that something in my life that I could do now. So maybe at summer camp, I went to a religious summer camp. Maybe I really loved being with folks that are in my religious community, and I'm not doing that so much today. So I could do that and look for a virtual community that I could be a part of. Or maybe I really loved the sound of the babbling brook, and although I can't go be in a babbling brook, it was actually soothing to listen to the sounds of a babbling brook and play that for myself. So these strategies can help us reconnect with ourselves, become aware of our physical patterns, and also just be engaged in our day to day. So, with that, we're now going to hear from Susie Fairchild, who's going to tell us a little bit more about how mindfulness works and how that self compassion part can work and support caregivers' overall wellness.
Hi there. My name is Susie Fairchild. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice in the Boston area, and I'm also a certified mindful self-compassion teacher. I work at the Center for Mindfulness and Compassion at Cambridge Health Alliance, as well as currently at the Providence VA and privately. And today I'd like to speak with you briefly about caring for ourselves in a very particular way when someone in our inner circle is struggling or suffering in some way. So I'm going to take a few minutes to speak about our product design as human beings, normalize why this type of pain is so challenging, And then invite you to explore a brief self-compassion practice that you might bring into these difficult situations in your life. And so we'll spend about 25 minutes together, primarily experientially. But before we do, I just want to talk a little bit about this being human. As human beings, we're highly relational, and this is built into our wiring. It's really important for us to be in connection, in loving connection with others. And we require this from the moment we're born. We wouldn't survive without it, without loving connection to meet our needs, until the moment that we die. And this latter piece is sometimes lost within the context of a culture that values the sense of rugged individualism. Our well-being depends on connection with others. We're designed that way, connected with ourselves and others. And self-compassion actually works on this relational aspect. It works within the relational matrix, and we'll explore this together directly in a bit. So part of the genius of our operating system includes these mirror neurons that we each have that allow us to feel in our bodies what others are feeling. And this is a really important source of information for our survival. And it can also be very distressing when someone we care for is struggling. And that capacity to feel is what we call empathy. The capacity to hold is what we call compassion. And this is often mislabeled when we're caring for others and feeling into their pain. We often call that compassion fatigue, but we're really talking about empathy fatigue. And the main difference is that compassion is actually a positive emotion. So there are two researchers by the names of Tanya Singer and Olga Klemecki, and they trained two groups to experience either empathy or compassion. And then they showed them a short film depicting others' suffering. And the film activated distinctly different brain networks in the two groups of subjects. So they put them under the fMRI. Empathy training also led to self-reported negative affect. And self-compassion training or compassion training generated positive affect. So if you're watching this video, you likely know the feeling of fatigue from caregiving. And we might best call that empathy fatigue, feeling what another feels. And when we experience another person's suffering, that suffering oftentimes bumps into our own suffering, our own experiences of pain or past traumas. And then sometimes it gets compounded by other factors like toxic cultural messages maybe we've internalized about what it means to struggle. So stigma around mental illness or toxic cultural messages about caregiving, mothering in particular, that the mental well-being of our child or someone we care for is a byproduct of our worth as a parent, or the well-being of our partner is somehow a measure of our worth as a partner. So a lot gets kicked up when someone in our life is struggling, and cultivating mindfulness and compassion can really support us as we navigate those very turbulent waters to move from empathy, the feeling which we need to touch into to cultivate compassion, to holding. So we need to touch into that, the difficult feeling, to be aware of it and come back to ourselves, to be able to hold our experience so that we can hold others, those that we care for. And also remembering that in holding ourselves steadily, the person or people that we're caring for get to feel this from us. They also have mirror neurons. So we feel what they feel. They also feel what we feel. When we hold steady, we offer them that feeling. And I think that's really important because we tend to approach or not approach self-compassion because we have misgivings about what that practice is, that somehow it's selfish. or self-indulgent, or it's weak. We view it as a secondary virtue in some way. We think it's going to undermine our motivation. And the research is explicitly clear on this. It speaks to the contrary, that self-compassion is actually associated with resilience and strongly associated with well-being. And so if you're someone who really values the science, that wants to look through the science, at the end of our talk today, I will offer you a resource with annotated bibliography of all of the research. So rather than going into the science, which is interesting for sure, and explaining specifically why we're doing what we're doing, I thought we would have the opportunity to experience it together, to feel it from the inside out. These practices are best understood through experience. There's a wonderful expression in the ancient language Pali of the Buddha, ehipassiko. So come and see for yourself. So have the experience and see what's there. Invite a sense of curiosity. And we're not going to make a big project of this today. You already know about compassion because you're caring for others, because you know how to care for yourself. That's what brought you here. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes with this practice, 15, 20 minutes. And I'd like to open it by sharing a quote from John O'Donohue. He said, "When we look into the heart, may our eyes have the kindness and the reverence of candlelight." And I think that talks about, really speaks to that felt sense of attitude we can invite in this practice. That means not struggling with it. If it's a struggle, it's not compassion. So as we explore a couple of practices together, really checking in with what works for you. If it feels like it's too difficult, this video is always here. The real practice is stepping back, taking care of ourselves, and coming back in again. We can only begin to learn and internalize if we're in a place of being able to hold. It's not a white knuckle practice. It's not a pushing through. So with that as our sort of holding frame, let's begin by closing our eyes, partially or fully. No right or wrong there, but the real intention here is to turn your attention into your body and notice what's happening inside the body, bringing awareness in and taking a few deep breaths. So breathing in and extending the exhale. A few more times. And when you're ready, letting your breath find its natural rhythm. And you might even breathe into a soft abdomen if that's available to you. And then attending to your posture right now as if it mattered. Feeling for comfort and support from your posture. So that might mean shifting to the ground if that's available to you, or standing if that's available, or moving if that's available. Grabbing a pillow, realigning and tenderly attending to this animal of the body. And of course, this is also often an opportunity to practice compassion Some of us live with physical pain. And so the invitation is to invite in the support as we can. Compassion for whatever's present. And so there are two universal triggers for compassion: gentle vocalizations and supportive touch, caring hands. And this is why physical touch can be a powerful gateway to compassion. So we can bring that physiology of caring connection online by bringing our hands to any part of the body that the body gladly receives them. And that will be different for each of us. So you may want to begin by bringing your hands to your heart, or if your hands are not available or that doesn't feel right, you can imagine the warmth and the pressure of caring hands resting on your heart, or any place on the body that the body says, thank you. You might notice judgments, but really paying attention to how the body feels. What does the body say about two hands on the heart and feeling the pressure, feeling the warmth. Maybe bringing those hands across the body over to the upper arms, offering a squeeze, or the motion of warmth, warming the heart, warming the body, warming the upper arm. Or bringing those caring hands to the face, allowing the face to rest in the hands. What do you notice here? One hand on the heart, one hand on the abdomen. Warmth, pressure, padding. Two hands on the abdomen. Or maybe there's a fist on the abdomen, hand covering the fist, a gesture of fierce compassion. The meditation teacher, Joan Halifax, says, strong back, soft front. How do we embody that? What does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? Caring and supportive hands that move and do things without you even telling them. Letting them care for you. All of the people who have supported you on this journey in your life, coming through your hands. Hands that have carefully tended to others. So you can release the hands or invite some further exploration of what feels supportive. Maybe massaging some part of the body, or maybe it's moving the body. Maybe it's feeling the rhythm. You know, our breath moves the body. There's a primal rocking motion that we have all known from the first. So we might bring our awareness to that rocking motion, front to back, or side to side. And we might just imperceptibly move with it, or exaggerate it a little bit and notice, does that support our body? Does that soothe us in some way? Or maybe what our body is inviting us to do is release something, release sound, a vocalization, a sigh, something louder. Maybe there are tears. Or maybe there's some more vigorous movement. And just taking a moment to explore your body and see what it needs. What does the body need right now to feel supported? How might we support it more? So you can release the hands or movement, or keep the hands where they're feeling supportive as we move into practice called the self-compassion break. And just knowing that those caring hands are always there to support you, that this whole body is there to support you. I'd like to invite you to bring to mind a situation that's difficult in your life that's causing you stress. So it might be the problem that brought you to this video, but maybe it's something a little bit less intense. Maybe there's a friend who's struggling in some way, or a work problem. We're choosing a problem in the mild to moderate range, not a big problem. And the reason that we do this is that we actually need to internalize these practices. When we're in a state of overwhelm or struggle or pushing through, when we pull, naturally the mind goes to the biggest problem. We can't internalize when we're in that place. So we're trying to be in the growth zone. We're trying to learn. We're learning so that we can take these into the wider experiences that we have. So if the brain has taken you to some big problem that you're having, backing off and taking a moment to find something that feels milder, in the 2 to 4 range, on a scale of 10 being the most difficult. And something that you can feel in your body. So seeing, hearing, and feeling your way into a problem to the extent that you experience some uneasiness in your body. So bringing the awareness into the body as you bring that situation into your mind's eye and making contact with that discomfort. And as you make contact with that discomfort, the mindfulness, naming what's present for you. This is a moment of suffering, or this is a difficult moment. This is painful. Anything that feels authentic to you. So really finding the language that resonates with your experience, and also the tone of voice. The tone of voice that communicates that you get it, that this is hard. And really paying attention to that, the way that you're embodying that recognition of what's present. So are you leaning in? The tone of voice, maybe there's some nodding, or there's some way that the body is communicating, yes, this is difficult. And then coming back to the body and noticing Again, where you feel this discomfort and bringing in this sense of common humanity, that suffering is part of our human experience, and finding the language that communicates that. It could be suffering is part of being human. May I begin to feel that I am not alone. Everybody struggles in their lives, not to compare our suffering. We're just recognizing what's true in that moment. And then bringing in those caring hands, placing the caring hands over your heart or any part of the body that says, thank you, that's the right move. And feeling the warmth and the gentle pressure of your hands. And finding the language to communicate the kindness. So the body is offering the kind and supportive touch, and the mind is offering the language. May I be kind to myself. Or maybe we're just beginning. So it's, may I begin to be kind to myself. May I begin to give myself what I need. See if you can find the words that you most need to hear. May I forgive myself. May I accept myself. And if these words feel difficult to find, just imagining that a dear friend or someone that you love is struggling in exactly the same way. What would you say to that person from your heart? And if your friend were to hold just a few of your words in their mind, what would you like them to be? What message would you deliver? How would you deliver it? What would be the tone of your voice? How would you hold your body? What would your caring hands offer that friend? And can you offer that same message to yourself? Bringing in the mindfulness. This is a difficult moment. Recognizing our experience as human beings. I'm not alone. Suffering is part of being human. Others would feel this way too in this situation. May I begin to be kind to myself, finding the words and a gesture that communicates that attitude of kindness. And then inviting a nice deep breath in, extending the exhale, and letting go of that practice, but leaving the eyes closed or the gaze soft and on the inside, and offering your body any type of movement or stretching that feels right. Maybe it's the neck or the jaw, rolling the shoulders, opening up the chest. Maybe it's a few deep inhalations or shaking out some of the gross tension in the hands, in the body. Making it your own practice. What does your body need? And when you feel ready, opening your eyes and coming back to this space. Thank you for your practice. So often when we begin practicing compassion, we notice one of three things. We notice nothing at all, which speaks to the truth that these are practices, that we're not getting rid of anything with this practice. It's the inclination of caring for a child with the flu, not to get rid of anything, but because we experience difficulty. And they are practices. So we feel nothing at all. We feel good. So maybe we have a touching into opening that relational matrix and touching into the physiology of compassion. Or we feel bad, right? Because we know through contrast, we know light because we know dark. And when we offer ourselves kindness and support, sometimes we feel the times that we have not felt that. Sometimes those come up. And that isn't a problem. It's actually an opportunity to practice more compassion. It's part of healing. But we also go about these practices slowly so that if and when that arises, we step back. We begin to hold the larger container of practicing compassion by not pushing through, by taking good care of ourselves as we heal. So if you're interested in learning more about self-compassion, please go to my website, which I'll show you on the next page, or the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, and I will share these resources with you now. Thank you very much for joining me on this practice today. Take good care.
So we are so thankful to Susie Fairchild, Susie Fairchild for presenting that wonderful moment for us to use mindfulness and incorporate it into our own lives and practice good self-compassion. We are coming to the close of our programming for today, but not coming to the close of Giving Tuesday. We want to thank all of you who have been watching our videos, who have donated, who have done the caregiver stress test screening. We have one more live event coming up next where we get to learn how to make a sourdough starter, really using those taste sensations and those smell sensations and doing activities that we could really find that would nourish our souls. So thank you again for being with us today. And we have one more event coming up. Continue to follow us on familyaware.org, on our website, and also on our Facebook page, Family Aware, for more updates on today's Giving Tuesday. Thank you so much.